Hi there. I am making a video today to talk to you about the InDesign updates. So there have been a number of key updates to the way that InDesign exports EPUBs in the past 6 months or so. A small group that I'm a part of have been advocating directly with the InDesign team since about February 2022, and we are at last seeing the fruits of that labor. If you regularly make ebooks from InDesign, you'll be familiar with some of these changes, and I hope to explain the why of some of these shifts in these videos. So come along and let's talk about what InDesign has fixed recently. Okay, let's talk about metadata. For the record, I just want to quickly show you that I am working in InDesign 19.4, so it's the version of InDesign that was released just a few weeks ago. Okay, let's go look at the improvements around accessibility metadata in the EPUB export wizard. So if you Command E or go to File and down to Export and choose Reflowable, here is this sort of set of options that you have. I want to scroll down to Metadata and then choose this Accessibility tab. So available since the 19.2 release in February 2024, InDesign now allows for a wide range of schema.org accessibility metadata to be applied to your EPUB export. This is a significant step forward, especially considering that accessibility metadata is a key requirement of the EPUB accessibility guidelines and will be required to meet the standards set by the European Accessibility Act. So a full set of the schema.org categories and values is available from the Metadata tab of the EPUB export wizard. So let's have a look at that. So here is accessibility feature. It's a little bit out of scope to go over all of these values and how to use them, but let's look at what a standard reflowable ebook export with nothing fancy going on, what it should contain. So this is a book with images for which there have been alternative text applied. I've been careful to create ARIA rules for content in this book, so I'll check that box. There's no captions, there's no math, there's no audio description. I will check display transformability in this case because it's black text on white background and so hits those standards. Actually, that was for high contrast display. Sorry, getting a little ahead of myself. And display transformability I will check because that means that the end user can increase or decrease the font size or change the font. So there's no index, there's no latex, there's no long descriptions, there's no math in this content. There are page break markers and page navigation, and I'm going to show you a little later in this video what that means. Avoid checking print page numbers. That's been deprecated, so that's going to go away in a future edition of InDesign, but avoid that one for now. Everything in this book is in the correct reading order, and I will check that. There's no Korean or Japanese or Chinese in this, so there's no Ruby annotation, so leave that. There's no sign language. There is structural navigation and a table of contents, so I will check those as well. So that covers the accessibility features, the accessibility hazards. If you had flashing, motion simulation, or sound, then you could check those. There's none of those in this document, so I'll leave that at the default of none. And then access mode and access mode sufficient. I'm not going to go through what those mean. I will put a link in the video description to a place where you can learn more about those on the DAISY Knowledge Base or the Accessible Publishing Learning Network. But this book is fully available either textually or visually, so that's what I will choose in both of those options. And then the accessibility summary, there's a field. This is a free form field. You can type whatever you like here. Be careful not to repeat anything that you've already pointed to in the values above. Something simple, if this is a fully accessible book, you could state that. And then the accessibility credentials. So it's worth staying here for a minute. This book I know will be conformed to EPUB Accessibility 1.1 at WCAG 2.1 level AA. So I can choose that. But a small warning that this field here isn't sticky at present. It's actually not coming out in the ebook. It's a bit aspirational. So choose it just so that you're aware of it. But you will probably have to paste that into your ebooks metadata until the next InDesign update at the very least. And then if your ebook is certified or if your publisher's workflow is certified, you could put something in here like, I work with a bunch of publishers in Canada who are certified by Benetech via eBound Canada, so I can put that in there, and I would go and dig up their certifier credentials, and if there was a link to a report, I could use that there. So this is a real move forward in terms of the kind of accessibility metadata that you can embed in your ebook. It's a vast improvement on what we could do before, which was essentially nothing. So well done InDesign, and this is a really nice improvement for those of us who make accessible ebooks. Let's talk about decorative images. So there were a few missteps in how this was implemented, but as of InDesign 19.4, developers are now able to mark which images in their books are purely decorative and therefore need no alt text. Decorative images and digital content that are purely aesthetic and serve no informational purposes. So that's what those are. For screen reader users, encountering these images without proper tagging can be confusing because they might think that they're missing important content, which detracts from the overall experience. So when an image is correctly marked as decorative, assistive technology basically hits that image tag, sees that it's marked as decorative, and knows that there's literally nothing to see here. There's nothing salient to the content that the user needs to see, so it just passes right past that. So users with print disabilities might think that they're missing important content if it's not marked correctly, which could detract from the overall experience. So to address this issue, Adobe aimed to enhance InDesign's ability to accurately mark decorative images, ensuring that they're properly identified by assistive technologies. So, I'm just going to cancel out of there so I can show you how I got here. With the arrow tool selected and an image selected, go up to Object Export Options and then over to the Alt Text tab. So you can see that custom is where you would generally you would write in your own image description, and there's some other options here. The one at the bottom is the one I want to point you to. This is the decorative image, no alt text. And when I select that, this field is now not available to me. Basically, it's grayed out. It says there's no alt text for that decorative image. So when a user has an image selected, they can now select decorative image, no alt text, and doing so will mean that the alt text window, the alt text on the final image will be empty. That alt text field will be alt equals and then quote mark, so it will be perfectly empty, and the resulting code will have the ARIA rule, the correct ARIA role applied to it. So in this case, it would be the ARIA role for a decorative image, which is role equals presentation. So it's now possible to do this for EPUB, which is a massive improvement, and it's been correctly implemented. Initially, it wasn't done well. So big improvement, nicely done. Thank you so much for adding this field to the Object Export Options menu. Look at what that looks like. This is that image that was right at the very start of that chapter. So here is the image. It has this weird class that InDesign attaches to it, but there's the role equals presentation, and then there's the image source, so that's pointing to that image there, and then right at the very end you see alt equals quote mark, so it's perfectly empty. So this is how the image tag is going to come out of InDesign, however you frame it. So it may be in a figure tag, or it may be in line, as this one down here is. There's two decorative images at the start of that book, but it will come out coded correctly, and it won't need any more intervention from you, which is a massive improvement. Let's talk about page navigation. This is far and away my favorite improvement to the EPUB export. A simple checkbox on the first tab of the EPUB export wizard means that InDesign will generate a page list for you. So here's the checkbox right here. It's right there, page navigation. If you check that, you're going to get a page list. So let's talk about what that means. The DAISY knowledge base says that if a reflowable publication is derived from statically paginated source, such as a print edition, Including a page list allows users to coordinate positions. For example, a student using a digital edition in a classroom where her peers are using print books would be able to jump to the same pages during instruction. The page list itself is a list of links to all of the page break locations. User agents can use this to provide automatic page jump functionality, or a user can access it directly to manually select the page they wish to go to. So essentially, InDesign puts in code marking the page break and then assembles the list of pages in the navigation document. The page list is used slightly differently by different reading systems. Sometimes it's used to generate page locations in the running footer, as in Apple Books, and sometimes it's an entire separate navigation list as seen in Adobe Digital Editions. So let's just have a look at that. I'm going to move in the window from Oxygen to show you what this looks like. So right here at the top of this chapter on line 12, there's a div with the ID equals page 25, role equals doc page break, which is the correct ARIA role. ARIA label equals 25, the page number, and EPUB type equals page break. So the way that InDesign does this is they output divs when it's not inside of a paragraph and spans when it's inside of a paragraph. So let's just scroll down a little bit. Here's a span right here. So it's in, the page break is in a paragraph, and so InDesign outputs it in a span that's sitting there. Now this is slightly problematic because you can see that there's a word space here and then a word space here. It might turn into two spaces. It's unlikely to, but the group that I'm working with is advocating for InDesign to fix this so that this will be a self-closing tag. And similarly for up here, if they use a div, we're actually advocating for them to switch to span all around, but to also, if that feels impossible, then to use a div that's self-closing just like this. So having the closing div tag on the following line could put in a kind of default word space there, which we definitely wouldn't want. So this is slightly problematic. It's a massive improvement to what InDesign did before, which was essentially nothing. So this is really good news. And then let's look at the corresponding page list. So here it is in the toc.xhtml. It's a separate nav with an EPUB type equals page list and role equals doc page list. And then literally every page in the document is listed out here. So if I open this book in Adobe Digital Editions, this is a rough export from InDesign, so please don't pay attention to the formatting errors, but Adobe Digital Editions just has this just sitting here. So I can click on page 26 and be brought to the start of page 26. Obviously the formatting here is a bit wonky, please ignore that. But it works as expected, and there's a print corollary page list that users can access. So this sort of levels up the accessibility of any content by several levels, because having a robust page list is an essential piece of EPUB accessibility, particularly hitting the EPUB accessibility 1.1 spec. So InDesign now does this for you by default, which is awesome. Up until 19.4, we had to use scripts and a little bit of magic and good luck and standing on your head to get a page list to export from InDesign, and now there's a simple checkbox. I'm hoping that in the near future there will be a field here to put in the print ISBN, so that number can be transformed into the correct metadata that links this digital edition to the print corollary edition. Hopefully that will come in 19.5 or 19.6. So fingers crossed for that update and for the correction to how the page breaks are exported. Again, this is a significant and massive improvement for which I'm very grateful. Point you towards today is the new field in the EPUB export wizard that allows you to put in some alt text for a cover. So in the past, this has just not been possible because generally you either link to an image or use the first page on which you could have applied alt text. I never do that because InDesign is a bit buggy. It exports the first page as if you chose this option, rasterize the first page, it would export that page as, say, 1.jpg, but it would actually be a PNG. It's a bit buggy, and so you'd have to figure it out. You'd get a validation error. Anyway, I never do that. I always choose an image. I always link out to a cover JPEG that is sitting somewhere. And then this here is this new field right here. So alt text for the cover. This field will be automatically populated by the book title and the author if you're using, let me just cancel out of there and go up to here. Go up to File and File Info. You can put some, it ended up on the other screen. You can put some basic metadata in here, and some of this will pull through into the EPUB exports. Let me go back to the EPUB export wizard. And so, it would pull some of that from there. So this is a good starting point for your cover alt text. This doesn't include, obviously, a description of any imagery that's being used on the alt text, but it's a good start. So it's a little bit basic. You could go on and write, oh my gosh, so many typos. Write a long image description. This field, it looks short, but it's not. It will keep all of the text that you put in here. Oh my God, so many typos. Blah blah blah. So it will inherit all of that. So use this as the kind of the skeleton of your cover alt text, and be careful to write a thorough description of the image. Not too long, not too short, gets to the point. But just having cover of book title by author is not sufficient, but this is a good starting point, and this is a nice next level thing that InDesign has done for ebook developers. Okay, that's the end of my video. Here's a few links on the screen. Some links to the DAISY knowledge base and to the APLN talking about accessibility metadata if you've not heard of it before. And an article on the creativepro.com site with some more details about this InDesign upgrade work. And a link to my own website. I blog frequently about issues in accessible publishing and digital publishing, so please mosey on over there and have a look. And if you're feeling the right vibes, please feel free to subscribe to my channel. I don't post a lot of updates, but if you want to be notified when I do, then that's the best way to do it. Thanks for watching.